Secondary sources are the corollary to primary authority. Primary sources contain the law and include the Constitution, statutes, regulations, and cases, whereas secondary sources contain commentary about the law and explain how to interpret and apply that law. There are several different kinds of secondary sources. In this lesson and throughout our tutorial, we'll discuss each of the different types of secondary sources. Secondary sources analyze, explain, or interpret the law. They accomplish this by providing commentary on the law found in primary sources. Commentary explains what the law means and describes how the law applies to different fact patterns. Secondary sources are often the best place to begin legal research and will get you up to speed quickly in an area of law you haven't studied yet. A secondary source will give you an overview of the topic and may provide citations to primary sources on that topic, such as cases, statutes, and regulations. There are 5 categories of secondary sources: dictionaries and encyclopedias, treatises, legal periodicals, American law reports, and restatements, model codes, and uniform acts. The broadest coverage of the widest variety of legal topics is found in encyclopedias. For example, a legal encyclopedia entry would provide a definition and commentary for the various types of homicide, but would not address the details of specific elements or defenses. There are 2 national legal encyclopedias: Corpus Juris Secundum, or CJS, and American Jurisprudence, or AmJur for short. If you're unsure of which secondary source to use, this is the best place to start. A treatise is what lawyers call a book. It provides comprehensive coverage of a single topic. Known by the names of their authors, such as Corbin on Contracts, the goal of a treatise is to explain the law and cite every case, statute, and regulation that applies to a given topic. Legal periodicals are simply journals and magazines that cover the law. Legal periodicals cover single, fairly narrow topics and typically don't go into as much detail as treatises. There are 2 flavors of periodicals: law reviews and law journals, which are scholarly and written by law professors, and bar journals, which contain useful information for practicing attorneys. American Law Reports, or ALR, is a secondary source made up of topical notes called annotations. ALR annotations are written on very narrow and specific topics. Where the encyclopedia gave the broad definition, the ALR would devote a single annotation to a single defense. For legal research, ALR annotations can be very valuable. If there is an annotation on a relevant topic, half the research work is complete. The annotation will collect primary sources on that topic and list them by jurisdiction. The last group of secondary sources is restatements, model acts, and uniform laws. While all of these secondary sources are persuasive, the restatements of the law are the most highly respected of all the secondary sources and are often cited by courts. Restatements are drafted by the American Law Institute, or ALI, whose membership is comprised of prominent lawyers, judges, and professors. Restatements re-articulate the legal rules that constitute the common law in a particular field, such as contracts. Another prestigious legal organization, the National Conference of Commissioners on Uniform State Laws, or NCC-USL, is responsible for drafting suggested uniform laws. Uniform laws are drafted to suggest the same or similar language be used across all jurisdictions. The most successful and commonly used uniform law is the Uniform Commercial Code. In addition to uniform acts, the NCC-USL also publishes model acts. Model acts are written to show what the law should be rather than what it is currently. The American Bar Association, the American Law Institute, and many other legal organizations also may publish model acts. Many state statutes are drafted and adopted, whole or in part, from model or uniform acts. However, these acts do not have the force of law unless or until adopted by a given jurisdiction. Note that a restatement, model code, or uniform law does not exist for every topic. You should now have a general idea of the different types of secondary sources available. Next up, we'll take a look at legal dictionaries and encyclopedias. But first, be sure to take our short quiz to test all the concepts you've learned in this lesson.